I believe that there's genius in each and every one of us as human beings. But there is a problem, ladies and gentlemen. There is a problem. In this day and age, we don't engage our genius a lot. In this day and age, we are leaning so much on technology that we don't even engage the brain. I know when we were growing up, we didn't have calculators, we didn't have all those things and so on. And of course, someone will say, why were we doing mathematics? Why did you take mathematics as a course? Let me tell you why. So that your brain can be active, so that your brain can be able to grow and become active and better. But today, when you just focus on the calculator and Excel and so on, and the brain is not engaged, I believe we are standing on a precipice of zombifying our minds and zombifying our brains and becoming dummies by the day. Today in the podcast, I want to share something very interesting. The number one reason Google must be your last option. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
In an amazing article on CNBC sometime back on June 5th, 2018, this writer called Sarah Badger dropped a bombshell saying tech-free dinners and no smartphones past 10 p.m., how Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and Mark Cuban limited their kids' screen time. And she goes on to paint a very nice story about these people and what they do and what they believe in terms of their children and their screen time. It's reported that dinner time at Jobs' house, for example, was used for an opportunity to have real discussions with his children. Jobs had 3 kids, Reed, 26, Erin, 22, and Eve, 20, with his wife Powell, and as well as a daughter Lisa, 40, from a previous relationship. And they say, quoting Isaacson, who wrote his book, Walter Isaacson, every evening Steve made a point of having dinner at the big long table in their kitchen, discussing books and history and a variety of things. Very interesting. It's also saying that Bill Gates revealed that often he limits how much screen time his youngest child got before bedtime and banned cell phones and of course smartphones until his children were in their teens. We don't have cell phones at the table. When we are having a meal, we didn't give our children cell phones until they were 14, and they complained other kids got them earlier. Bill Gates is reported to have said the same thing. In this podcast today, we are discussing a very interesting topic where I am postulating that Google ought to be your last option. It ought to be my last option. That each and every one of us is genius. We are given an interesting brain. And in a podcast some time back, probably 4 podcasts ago, I shared a message where I say that there is one analog trait of world changes. And that analog trait is basically thinking and planning, sitting with a pen and paper, going traditional to think, engage the mind and engage the brain to plan. Today we are so enveloped, and there is a big advantage, by the way, of having this technology. There is a big advantage of having Google. Do you know, if I wanted to look for the article that I've just referred to, and there was no Google, it would have taken me days, probably weeks, to go and commute maybe in a library somewhere before I can be able to get that article. In fact, that article will not even have been written. I might not even have had access to it because of technology, because maybe that article would have been written in a newspaper somewhere and a magazine somewhere and so on, and maybe I might not even have access to it. But thank God for technology. Something is written today in Timbuktu, and when someone hits the send button, the whole wide world is exposed to it. I do this podcast, and when I hit the upload button, 62 countries all over the world have access to Life Signatures Radio. Thank God for technology. But ladies and gentlemen, there is a downside to it. When we are in the technology ecosystem, I would rather that we be producers of these things, producers of content or producers of technology, rather than just mere consumers. I know consumerism in technology is a good thing and so on, but we stand a danger, ladies and gentlemen, to become zombies, to dull our minds and dull our brains, when the very first thing that we do in the morning is to engage in technology, and the mind is not engaged in any way. And technology, by the way, gives us an opportunity to have the mind engaged, but for the most part, that opportunity is overshadowed by this aspect of us going to social media and spending quantities of time reading about sports, reading about our friends and their social pages and our own social pages, looking at the likes, looking at the photos, streaming videos and streaming movies and so on. And in the end, you ask yourself, when is the last time that mind was really engaged? When is the last time that the brain got some work to do? It is a serious danger, ladies and gentlemen. And I know I've quoted this article which was focusing on children, but I am focusing on each and every one of us, including myself. See, the time that we spend on screens has really increased, and the time that we spend on the brain, working the brain, making sure that there's something new coming out and just going in there, using the capacity that we were given, it is limited. I mean, it's becoming shorter and shorter as we go. Folks do not want to engage their brains even for a second. Google has become the almighty consultant in all the subjects under the sun. In turn, our brains are lying dormant, unused, unchallenged, and growing stale, uncreative, and downright dull because we don't engage them. See, in schooling days, we did not have calculators. We did not have computers. We did not have Google. Not even things like Twitter hadn't even been invented. No Quora, no Facebook, no Yelp, no TripAdvisor, no LinkedIn, or any other technology-related helper out there. The earliest I got to getting accelerated technology help was with Yahoo. Those days when Yahoo was the in thing. And we had these chat rooms and these discussion forums and Internet 1.0. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Google landed. What a great helper Google has been. Today, Google has added so many features and so many products in their suites that many hitherto problems and challenges are being solved so naturally, as if we were entitled to them in the first place. For example, if you are traveling and you wanted to know exactly how long that journey will take, you can trace exactly where you are in real time, and you can know the name of the next town that you're going to, even if you've never been there before. Look at that. I mean, you can estimate what time you're going to arrive, and you can get directions to a place where you're going. Look at that. But I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, that we might be having a problem. Google is not helping in the natural process of thinking, making decisions, and making geniuses anymore. See, I have had a privilege to interact with technology in terms of creation, in terms of sitting down and coding in some years back, when I used to code using Visual Basic and Visual Basic for applications and such like rudimentary coding programs. Brother, by the time you see something simple that you can use in terms of technology, me, the coder or the developer, has really cracked his mind and his brain and has become sharper. But you, the user of the technology, you are freed from all these hardships in your brain, and in turn, your brain is not working. So let me illustrate with this story. In 2009, I consulted with a large telecom company to help them launch a revolutionary product for the very first time. See, my task in this was to help the marketing gurus or the marketing managers in that telecom company to come up to speed with this new product that they were supposed to be marketing, they were supposed to be championing. Okay, and so in my presentation, in my PowerPoint presentation to these guys, they were nonchalant, just on their phones, not talking, and they brushed me aside. At the end of the day, it was very embarrassing. Let me tell you, I thought these guys will be leaning forward and curious and asking questions. They said, we don't need this presentation, we don't need this thing, you're wasting our time. I don't need to know all this stuff. All I need to know, I'm the marketing manager. All I need to know is if there is a problem in the market, I know whom to call. I pick up my phone and I call, and my problem is solved. I looked at those guys incredulous. I'm like, what kind of people are these? See, they had steeped themselves into this mindset that they don't need to work their brain and acquire knowledge and actually use the brain, that every time they get stuck, they can make a phone call. Pray tell me, how passionate could that marketing executive become if he doesn't know the inside and outside of the product that they're going to sell? I looked rather sheepish and I reported the incident to their boss, but that, ladies and gentlemen, is the exact problem that we are having with our people these days. Folks do not want to engage the brain. People do not want to engage the mind even for a second. Google has become the almighty consultant in all the subjects under the sun. In turn, our brains are lying dormant. The brain is one malleable organ that grows with use, and contrary to popular belief and even disapproved by science, our brain cells do not waste away at 25. People normally think that, when you get to 25 years of age, your brain starts disintegrating. It doesn't. We are able to learn new things at least past 50. Consider the following examples. At the age of 71, an agent turned down a guy called Jack Benny. Do you know who Jack Benny was? He was a movie actor, he was a comedian, he was a violinist, and so on. By the age of 71, an agent turned down Jack Benny thinking he was washed up, used up, spent force. Jack found another agent and fulfilled $12 million more in bookings before he died at the age of 81. Look at this man at 71 engaging the brain. People normally check out physically. Anyway, Moses was 80 when he received the law. Aaron was 83 when he began to perform miracles and plagues in Egypt. Joshua was 85 when he led Israel into the promised land. Will Durant sold a series of television programs at the young age of 91. You can Google that name, Will Durant. Frank Lloyd Wright, of course you know that name, created the magnificent museum at 89. Guggenheim Museum at 89. Colonel Sanders, of course you know about this, was in his 60s when he sold his first Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise. Golda Meir was 71 when he became the Prime Minister of Israel. George Bernard Shaw was 94 when one of his plays was first produced. And finally, and not even the final by the way, Benjamin Franklin was a newspaper columnist at 16 and a framer of the United States Constitution when he was 81. The brain is such a malleable tool, but I'm afraid, friends, we are wasting it away by being consumers of technology, especially in terms of comfort and social media and so on. I am sounding an alarm today, especially for ourselves and even for our children after us. What's gonna happen what's going to happen years from today, even 5, maybe even 2 years from today, if we stopped engaging our brains. And the very few people who are engaging their brains are the guys who are actually producing the technology. And the rest of us who are the consumers of the technology, we seldom think, we seldom plan, we are 24/7 being helped or consuming this technology that has come to us. It is a double-edged sword. It cuts, and I think it's cutting even ever so silently without us knowing. Then it blesses. It either destroys or it blesses us, depending on which side we're looking at. Every time I normally, you see, as a content generator, every time I have to produce some content and there's something that I need to remember or something I need to submit, I need to add, it is very easy. By the way, it is very easy to run to Google and download everything from Google and I've seen people do this because I've edited some stuff for people and I've created some stuff for people and I've read some people's stuff. You can easily tell where the brain was never engaged. There is no content, there is no passion, there is no ingenuity, there is no excellence, because people are zombies in terms of their brains. And so I'm challenging you today that Google ought to be your last option. I'm not saying Google is bad. I am talking from the angle of developing our brains. If we want our brains to be developed, let's do this. Before you can go to Google, sit down, have a blank piece of paper and engage that gray matter in your head between your ears and come up with something. Write something. If it's an article you're trying to generate, come up with some points. I normally do very many article generations. And let me tell you this, every time I do this, I sit down and I write my own article from my own head, okay? And I crack my head about it. And then after that, I go to Google. Do you know what I find out? I find out that I even have finer points than what Google is giving me on the particular subject matter. Because what Google is giving me is what someone else's brain gave them. Google is not a machine. It is just a collection of people's ideas and people's thoughts and people's content. So I would rather also be a content producer on Google than be a consummate 100% content consumer. So before you can go to Google, engage the mind, engage the brain, and download some things from your brain and your mind, and you'll find out, you see, if I just went straight to Google to get the data, you know what I would have robbed myself? I would have robbed myself of the good stuff that I found out is better than what is already existing in Google. I hope that makes sense to you. In other words, if we keep just going to Google all the time, see, if you're looking for facts, that's okay. If you're looking for statistics, that's fine. But if you're looking for concepts, theories, ideas, on something that you're passionate about, don't go to Google first. Go to your brain. Chances are that idea was put there by God himself, and he wants you to crack it. He wants you to turn it upside and downside and 360 degrees until something tangible comes out of it. Then you can go to Google. I found out that after you've gone to Google being your last option, you become incredulous because you realize that the content that is there is probably, number one, shallow. And something else that you realize that really excites me, you realize that you have probably the exact same thing, and I'm going to share with you this in the next episode. The exact same thing that you have downloaded is the exact same thing that a thought leader, a mighty thought leader, has shared. And it ups your profile and you start feeling good about yourself. But you see, at the end of the day, what have you gained? You've gained to use your brain, and you've gained to increase your self-image and self-esteem and self-concept that you are a man of substance, you're a woman of substance. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm belaboring this because it is important. Before you can go to Google, go to your brain and exercise it. Crack it for a while. Think, let it grow. And also cut off the use of social media and the use of technology in your life. Otherwise, you stand a chance of dulling the brain, making it unused, untapped, making it stale. and you're going to pass that to the next generation in an unfortunate way. Well, until tomorrow, think about those things. Bye-bye. A special shout out to my mentor, Jeffrey Howard of Visionary Business University, found at mastermindmentor.com, who has graciously provided me with the soundtrack and the introductory track to this podcast. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.